Okay, I've actually been waiting so long to share what I think is the best trip story I have out of all of my experiences, and I guess today is the day to say yeah, this trip actually did somehow happen, and I still have no idea how it was even physically possible. So all of this starts when me and my mate, who we'll call Luke, decided to join this club as part of our school, which replaced some of our lessons. Anything to get away from my English teacher, to be honest. And on our way back, we had a lengthy 4-ish hour coach journey full of fellow druggy teenagers. Oh wait, did I say druggy? Alcohol's not a drug, my bad. So me having taken acid once before, and Luke being a Lucy virgin, we each took 50 mics, and that's when the laughing began. We were sat in a circle with our group and group leader being debriefed, and well, everyone else was. Me and Luke were not being debriefed. Instead, we progressively shared more and more glances, smiling wider and wider until before you know it, we're laughing hysterically in front of everyone for no sober reason. And I mean full on lying on my back, unable to sit up with my arms spread open like Miley Cyrus, doing those weird struggling for air laughs. As insane as we looked, the people around us couldn't have been that confused. Let me tell you why. This thing we were doing was like 4 days long, and we had snuck out every single day at some point, often multiple times, to smoke weed and come back. Bearing in mind, we were 17, so it wasn't easy to just be unsupervised. Oh man, the extent we went to, one of the activities was a water balloon fight, and we got a whole group to drench our instructor, so we had to go dry off and get changed. Probably not the kind of wet and covered in latex that he wanted his hot co-workers to see him in. He told us to stay put, not to leave. He'd be back in a couple of minutes, so of course within 30 seconds we were getting high in a bush, and we come back with red LEDs for eyes to a very dry mentor, and yeah, that was just one time of many. You can see why us laughing hysterically like that wasn't too radical. But that's a story for another day. Moving on, as funny as everything was, it still felt weird as hell to be tripping a fair bit around hundreds of teenagers who we had made friends with. I'm definitely not one to see psychedelics as social drugs, even at low doses. Needless to say, for about 4 hours straight, we laughed, and everyone asked why we laughed, but of course them asking looked ridiculous and would make us laugh more because literally everything was hilarious. When we got home, we went back to our natural habitat, the park, still mildly tripping, and smoked a huge joint, which is really where this story begins. You see, this was my first time combining weed and acid, and I had no idea just how much of a video game I was about to be in. I quickly went from 20 mics of acid intensity to 200 plus mics intensity, and we were in a pretty public area. Despite that, being the clowns that we were, we had a NOS balloon, and I died. I actually have a video on what this combination feels like here, but long story short, it's a DMT intensity, leave your body, turn into shapes that click together perfectly, and feel like you understand everything before forgetting it all kind of thing. Except this time, as I was coming back still heavily tripping, someone had seen our beautiful pink balloons and decided they wanted in, so came right up to us, meaning I opened my eyes still merged with Mike Tyson's baseline consciousness, and there's this random fucking guy just staring and smiling at us looking to buy some. You know, for his birthday party or something. Me and Luke had no idea what to say and basically just told him we were on acid and very confused, and he said he'd done acid before and that his friend that was with him was also on acid right now. He started talking to us like we were mates now, and we really had no idea how to interact, so we kind of just navigated these dimensions as he kept talking until out of nowhere, me and Luke looked right at each other so suddenly, like fucking birds, knowing what was somehow about to happen. Instantly, I got sucked right out of my body and turned back into the fundamental shapes that make up my being, and bam, full on nitrous balloon intensity ego death. From this random guy's perspective, he was just talking and out of nowhere sees us perfectly synchronized, simultaneously look at each other and then just pass out for 30 seconds before coming back like what the BBC anal fuck was that? We were so confused since that was literally the same intensity as doing a full balloon, but we hadn't taken anything. We kind of just chalked it up to acid being acid and continued pretending to listen to this guy talk while questioning the hell out of everything until a minute later, we look at each other again at the exact same time, and within seconds we're both back out of our bodies in the acid and nitrous dimension. This guy had no idea what was going on, and neither did we, until a minute later it happened again and we suddenly had every idea of what was going on because the nature of reality was as clear as Putin's naughty intentions. Naughty boy. This happened like 10 times, over and over again, each time getting more intense as the trip was building on itself until I finally realized why it was happening. Now, I don't know how this is actually physically possible, all I have is what I experienced, but I saw a pattern that just made everything click into place. We were pretty close to an airport, and every minute or so a plane would fly over us making that really loud plane noise. You know that sound your ass makes after a Taco Bell? Well, it turned out it was the planes making us trip, because every time one flew over us, me and my friend would have yet another breakthrough ego death, and this isn't like just some 50% increase in intensity we're talking about. This is a full-on breakthrough each time. So yeah, this guy standing there just sees us pass out for the 10th or so time in a row, come back and say, oh shit, it's the planes making us trip. Now, I'm not sure when exactly this happened because I was in and out of the acid dimension and beyond, but that guy's friend who was also on acid at some point during all of this ran up next to us on top of this big rock and started beating his chest like a gorilla and howling before running off again. It was literally daytime out in public with a fair amount of people and families walking around, so it's not like this trip is already ridiculous. I actually had to ask my friend what he remembered to make sure I'm not actually insane, and I was genuinely surprised when he described the same events, so there's your scientific proof that this is real. After a while, the guy realized we were probably even more fucked up than his gorilla-loving friend, so he eventually left, and that's around when me and Luke realized it wasn't even just the planes making us trip. This is just our theory, but we think there was a specific frequency or something that somehow became intertwined and correlated with our trip intensity because it got windy and the trees rustling started making us trip on nitrous too, though not nearly as intensely. It distinctly felt like nitrous, and me and Luke's trips were perfectly synchronized because we were hearing the same things. That was up until at some point during all of this, I felt really hungry, got curious about food, and decided to bite into a biscuit that I had on me. The sounds of me chewing started making me trip biscuits, but for the first time Luke wasn't joining me, which confirmed to me that it was sound somehow genociding our ego. And yeah, that was pretty weird and what I consider my first and last time eating on nitrous and acid. These huge peaks with the planes happened at least over 30 times, and it had some sort of peak in of itself because after maybe the 20th-ish time it did eventually start to wear off a little each trip. We decided to actually take nitrous again to see what would happen, but it just gave us the same experience the planes did, and it wasn't really that special, you know, outside of breaking through and turning into fundamental shapes that felt more real than reality. And if you thought that was the end to this story, it gets crazier. So I actually had a really important assignment due the next day that would contribute massively to getting into university, and of course I left it till the last minute. If only I had a psychedelic guide to help me not be a lazy fuck. Anyways, we went home at maybe midnight-ish, and I was still tripping on acid, weed, and even still a bit of nitrous afterglow with a few thousand words to write on artificial intelligence and school the next day. So what's the solution? Well, more drugs, of course, unless you're actually good at making decisions. Surprisingly, this actually somehow worked out for me. I took amphetamine nasally and just typed away for a few hours, somehow landing myself an A on that assignment. I literally have no reason to make this story more unbelievable. I'm just saying it how it is. So does anyone have any ideas of what happened with that nitrous thing? Like, yeah, our theory makes sense, but I still don't really get how we felt the nitrous without physically taking it. It wasn't just more acid intensity, it was definitely a dissociative and acid combo. This has not happened to me since, so I don't know, but that wraps this story up. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button for more psychedelic videos, since YouTube's kind of shitty at recommending safety channels, and I've got some great stuff planned for the future. Peace.